Etranscript setup and process. Before starting to pre-register for each semester, an end user would need to access SHRTETC to set up the Hold for Degrees or Grades tab. So it would depend on your college. If your college has the option to allow a student to hold for degrees and or the option to hold for grades, then you would need to set up the release date. So you would access SHRTETC. You would enter in the term and the release date for the hold for degree terms, and then the hold for the grades, you'd actually add an additional term and add that date. The hold for grades needs to be entered prior to the registration term beginning. So it's very important that if your college is using this option, that you add that hold for grades term before you start allowing a student to register for the term. Because once a student is allowed to register for a term, that term becomes an option on the drop down if they choose hold for grades. When a student chooses hold for grades on the NSCE transcript link, it then shows them what terms they have to choose, and it only allows them to choose a term where they have in progress courses. And that's why it's important that you put this date and this release date before you start allowing students to register. And then the hold for degrees, you need to update every term that's on SHRTETC. You need to realize that the release date must be the same for all terms. It must be the day before you plan to start entering completers for the current registration term, because you want to note that it's important because the process is looking at the expected graduation term on the person's suggestion record and not the term on the SHA degree record. I'm going to go over to SHRTETC real quick and just show you it for one college. And remember, a lot of times people forget this, but the release date doesn't mean the orders are going to release on that day. It's going to release the day after that date. And you're also going to learn that it takes more than just this release date to release a request that has hold for grades or degrees. But this is one of the components. And this one I find has been the most problematic component because sometimes the end users forget to enter it, or they're expecting it to release on the date that they entered instead of the day after. So remember, it is the day after. So once you access SHRTETC, you would then automatically click on the Hold for Grades Degree tab. And that's when you're going to see all the terms. So you're going to see you have a column that says Hold for Degrees. Then you have a column that says Hold for Grades. And then it has the release date. Now, Hold for Degrees. We have every term listed since we've been in Banner. So 2013, 10, and after. Every major term or semester. That means fall, spring, summer. We don't have to use the mini-mesters. And the reason we have to use that term is because this particular part of the process is not looking at the term on SHA degree. It is looking at the expected graduation date that was entered on the student's suggestion record. So I'm going to go to a suggestion record real quick. I want to make sure you understand this. When we get an applicant in and then a decision is assigned, the person is then given a suggestion record. That's called the learner record. On that record, we have to insert what we consider the expected graduation date. This is really not the date we expect them to graduate. We just took a year, semester 5 years from the semester they started and said this is going to be their expected graduation date because the clearinghouse report requires an expected graduation date. So that's on the student's record. And for some reason, when Ellucian developed the e-transcript process, that's the term they look at to determine if they should release it, which makes no sense to me. I will agree. You're probably saying that right now. This makes no sense. But that is the way they developed it. So with that said, every term that we've ever attached to a student's record as their expected graduation term must exist on SHRTETC with a release date that's going to be in the past when you want that person's hold for degree transcript request process to be released. So you click on the, I think it's the academics and graduation dual enrolled. And it's right here. So the graduation station section. So you'll see that they have this student expected to graduate in 2024-20. So if Amber Gazov submits a transcript request and she says awaiting for degree, it is looking for the release date on 2024-20 to be in the past, even though she's going to graduate in 2019-10. So that just explains a little further to you why on SHRTETC you need to have every term for hold for degrees, every term from 2013-10 until whatever we have on there. You need to have all of those terms on there with a release date for that term that's currently in process or the next term. You have to note this release date is not really important at all because there's other factors that are included in releasing the degrees, the hold for degree requests. And you'll learn those as you go through these videos and learn this process. But you just need to know for this video that every term needs to exist. And what happens is when a specialist adds new terms to SDV term, they automatically come and add the new term here and put the release date that you currently have active. Now, hold for grades is a little different. For hold for grades, that it actually looks for the term in which the student has in-progress courses and they've selected, and you have to put the release date for that. Once again, I would suggest you're lenient on this because a lot of times I'll get service requests and say, well, we rolled the grades, but the hold for grades transcripts haven't processed. And it's because your release date is not in the past. So there's several components and this is only one. So I would suggest you be a little lenient on that. If you're not, and let's say, for example, this school for 2016-30 put their release date as August 10th, but they actually rolled grades on August 1st. These requests will still not process for 10 more days. They're not going to process until August the 11th because it's looking for the date after this. Then it'll be August the 11th at night because they process during your polling time. And every college's polling time is set to poll at night. And what polling is, it means that the cloud, the Lucian cloud, goes back in and it checks for any transcripts that are sitting out there that need to be processed because they were released for grade, a hold got released so that order can now be processed, or the release for a degree was met. So very important that you set this up right and you set it up at the beginning of each pre-registration period before the first person is allowed to register. This is the process flow of how a transcript comes into our system. So the third party is National Student Clearinghouse. So your link is a link that National Student Clearinghouse developed. You decided what questions would be on it and what your welcoming page would say. The person goes in, they fill out their request form using the third-party vendor, which is National Student Clearinghouse. As soon as their request is complete and they have signed the waiver, NSC sends it over to the Banner Cloud. And then the Banner Cloud immediately sends it over to Banner. And then Banner will begin to do a matching process. It'll look to see if that person can match according to the rule we created. If they find a match and say, yep, this is the person, this is the transcript, if it's a paper one, it automatically goes to the printer. And that's why you have one printer designated for each transcript. And if you ever change that printer, you need to let us know because everything needs to be lined up. And you would let us know by submitting a service request to your specialist. If it's a PDF order, Banner sends that order back to the National Student Clearinghouse, and the National Student Clearinghouse then emails it to the recipient. Just a little more on the printer. Your Form Fusion template for transcripts are tied to the printer that you are using to print. So once again, if you change printers, you need to submit a request to have Form Fusion attached to the new printer. So a few things need to happen, but the specialist handles everything. So if your printer breaks or for some reason you need to change printers, you need to let the specialist know by submitting a service request. If you have to move the printer, you need to let your specialist know so that they know the printer is going to be unconnected for a certain amount of time, and you need to let them know when you're going to move it and when it's going to be reset up to start processing transcripts again. If the request requires end-user intervention, the order will not be processed until an end-user resolves the issue with the transcript. And common issues are a person has an active CV hold, Banner couldn't find the exact match for the student. Student isn't in Banner, but prior legacy system that wasn't loaded into Banner, or attachment needs to be reviewed. And we're going to go through those as I'm teaching you this process. Notice I didn't say LHO because a person should never have an active LHO. This was used as a placeholder only to let your college know this person has legacy transcript as well as a Banner. So they know, okay, once the Banner one prints, I need to also pull the legacy one. But a LHO should never be active. For the CV holds, an email is sent to each college daily, letting them know what e-transcript requests have come in that have an active CV hold. And the agreement was we give them 48 hours to release the CV hold so the transcript can be processed.